Welcome to Switched On IT. I'm Barry. You're watching the next episode of Switched On IT. Today we have Doug with us from Oz Hosting and Ray from the United States. Welcome, gentlemen. Good morning, Doug. How are you this morning?
Pretty good, Barry.
That's good. And Ray?
Good evening. Well, good morning to you. Good evening to me.
Yeah. And whereabouts in the US are you today, Ray?
I am in my office in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
All right. Okay. Well, now I believe that we are going to talk about the components of a good website today. So, Doug and Ray, we'll turn this over to you.
Thanks, Barry. And g'day, Ray. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Now, with a website, of course, it's one of the most important communication pieces that a business can have these days. And I think for today's discussion, we were talking earlier, and we said that we'll really keep the focus just on a regular, what we would describe as a brochureware website. We won't get into e-commerce and shopping carts and that kind of aspect of good websites. So we'll keep it fairly simple. I think your standard brochureware websites are the kind of websites that people put up online when they might have a business that services a local community, and they really want to make a statement about who they are, what they stand for, what kind of products they've got, and make it easy for for their customers or prospective customers to understand that and maybe make contact with them. So with that in mind, maybe we can firstly have a little bit of a chat about the information that's going to be important to them. So one of the things we chatted about earlier on was landing pages. Now, maybe we should define what a landing page is, and then help our listeners understand why landing pages are important and where they go to get information about those about the landing pages on their website.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to preface this with the fact that even though we're talking about what sounds simplistically like a brochure website, and that's because a brochure, at least a trifold brochure in standard print marketing material, is something that just has a description about your business and services, products, that kind of thing, and contact information. And a lot of people talk about those when it comes to websites as being kind of the same thing. But remember that your website is something that you want your customers to come back to over and over again. So even if we are talking about a simple brochure website, we still want to put in the hard work, the thoughtful work of making your website appealing to customers so that they want to be coming back time and again. Even if you're not in e-commerce, even if you're not selling products directly on your site, your website is still your best sales tool on the internet today. And to your point, Doug, there's a little bit of a misnomer between some of these things. So we talk about landing pages when it comes to websites, and there are kind of two terms for that. We can talk about lead pages and landing pages, and sometimes those terms are used interchangeably. And so, but just generally for what we're talking about the pages on your website from which people land from a Google search or another search on another search engine, and they land on your website. So that's the landing page, and that can genuinely be any page on your website. It's usually not your home page unless I already know you, right? So Doug, you do a website for Oz Hosting. Oz Hosting is going to show up to the home page because that's the front end of the website. But most people are going to find you through the landing pages that are other pages than your home page. Would you agree?
Absolutely correct. It's like a website it's like a house with many doors, and the side doors tend to be used in total much more than the front door is used, and that has a lot to do with how you structure your content and therefore how you've organised your visibility to online searches. So let's have a little bit of a chat about that. So for a business owner that's got a website, it might be 20 pages, 15 to 20 pages, something like that. How does he understand what the current interaction by his customer base is with his website?
Well, one simple thing you can do is you can ask your customers what pages on their website, what pages on your website they find most valuable. Right? When you've got them face to face, there's nothing that's better than getting it directly from your customers. While you have them. But there are tools that allow you to be able to look at the data in a more objective fashion where it can collect the data. The tool that we most often recommend is a tool called Google Analytics, and that's the product built by Google to analyze what happens on your website as website visitors come to it. And it's a free product, at least the version that is most widely used is free. And you install it on your website. They give you instructions for how to do that. And then it starts tracking from the time you implement the tool to give you information about what happens on the site, how long people spend on the page, what pages people come to, right? So what are the entry pages that people are landing on from either typing in URLs, doing Google searches, or otherwise clicking on links on other websites. And you can find out such a host of information, so many different dimensions of information just from slicing and dicing the data from within Google Analytics.
Absolutely, and I guess this gets us into a discussion of one of the terms that people use is UX, or user experience, and the amount of time that somebody spends on an individual page gives you a sense of whether that page was interesting to them. And that introduces another term which is called the bounce rate. So, to a certain extent, if somebody lands on your page and you can see in Google Analytics that they spent 10 seconds on the page and then they left your site, that is probably a good indicator that you need to think about the content that they found there and what they were probably looking for, and whether you need to do some more work on the site to deliver the information that individual might have been looking for. So that gets us into, I guess, a discussion of the flow through a site. Ray, where does one get that information, and what do you generally look for? What does it look like when somebody is evaluating that?
Absolutely. So I want to take a step back with regard to bounce rate. I have a personal pet peeve against the bounce rate. The way in which Google, the way in which Google looks at a bounce rate, and other search site analytical tools, analytics tools will display this and track this differently. But the way Google does it is that it indicates a bounce for anyone who lands on a single page and then exits that same page. That does not mean, that's not necessarily a bad indicator. And what you said, Doug, which is that the time someone spends on a page is actually markedly more important than the fact that I entered from a Google search potentially, or I typed in a specific page, spent time on that page, got the information I needed, and then left that page. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, right? If you have optimized a specific page on your website to convert customers for whatever that is, right? If the call to action is that they pick up the phone and call you, that's great. Or whatever the situation is, the point is that if you have an informational page and someone spends time on site, they've been brought closer to you, and it's up to you to now call them to action, and we'll get to that later. But bounce rate by itself, in its own little walled garden, is not necessarily an appropriate metric to rate your site. So time on site is far more informative, right? Because the time someone spends on a page gives you an indicator as to what the value of the page to that person, whether or not they've become closer to your brand, they like you, they know you, they trust you, they're more likely to buy from you because of the information you gave them. So time on site's really a very important metric, whereas bounce rate nowadays, I really relegate that to kind of garbage data that we shouldn't use as a metric for the standard of how quality a website is. But to further your point in terms of flow, at least as it relates to Google Analytics, you can go into the Google Analytics dashboard, and in the left-hand side panel, you're actually given a section called behavior. And this actually goes through and shows you different ways that people you can see breadcrumbs, in essence, kind of like an outline of where people visit most on your site. So you can see if they've entered from one particular page, right? They landed on a specific entry page, then they went to another page, they went to another page, and then they left your site, or they filled out a form and then left your site. You can see all of those things. And the most important thing that I can kind of leave everybody here with, or that we can leave everyone with, Doug, is the idea of setting up the appropriate goals and conversions, or the appropriate goals for conversions within Google Analytics. It takes a little bit of time kind of learning what a goal and a conversion is in Google Analytics. In essence, a goal is a series of actions you want a visitor on your website to take. A conversion is when that person goes down that path and does that thing you want them to do. So case in point, maybe you want someone to enter your services page, then you want them to click on the contact page to be able to fill out the form and hit submit, right? So that would be the goal. Land on this page, go to this page, fill out a form, click submit. When someone clicks submit, that's a conversion. Well, you can set up in Google Analytics many different types of these goals to see which ones convert better. And the more you analyze this kind of data, the more you can watch the behavior of your website visitors and then optimize your website, change your website to make your sites convert better.
Yeah, very true. And I certainly take your point about a bounce rate. I mean, really, if the last thing that an individual on your site did was either submit a form, or if they were visiting the site on a mobile phone and the phone number is in there and click to call is enabled, when they clicked on the click to call link and called your business, then that can still be recorded as a bounce, but that's hardly a fail.
Right, absolutely. And so you bring up mobile, so I think it's a good time for us to actually talk about mobile friendliness in the sites. So what things do you usually typically guide your customers regarding making sure their websites are optimized for mobile?
Yeah, look, I think that's changed a hell of a lot over the last few years, and the number of sites or the percentage of website visits that are hitting sites from a mobile device has just increased so massively that it is definitely something that you cannot ignore at the moment. And so that then starts to dictate how you structure information on your site and what tools you have available to make sure that the mobile experience is enjoyable for the visitor. So, think of people sitting on mass transit, getting to and from their office. All around the world, people are spending hours and hours a day on mass transit, and they're active on devices, and they are potentially visiting your site either for commercial reasons or just for their own purpose as an individual going about their lives.
Looking for exposure for your business or event? Take your business, community event, training seminar, sports fixture, function, concert or exhibition to the world with Power TV Australia and Power FM's unique live outside simulcasts. We can turn your next local event into a worldwide sensation with stunning live pictures, interviews, graphics and live action replays for a fraction of the usual cost. From a festival or sports fixtures to a corporate or charity event, Power TV Australia and Power FM can take your message live to our local and national viewers and listeners. Invite the world to your party by contacting Barry today on 0431 390 920 or email programming@powertvaustralia.com for a quote.
Break out the popcorn, sweets and drinks. It's Sunday night at the movies. Latest release movies brought to you exclusively by US filmmakers, including Lima Films. Sunday night at the movies, so join us every Sunday night at 7 p.m. right here on Power TV Australia.
Hi, this is Mick Jagger on
Classic Vinyl.
This is Debbie Harry from Blondie.
This is Jimmy Barnes here.
Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac.
This is Reverend Willie G from ZZ Top.
The best tracks from the greatest albums of our generation.
That's right.
From your breakfast and coffee to your drive home.
We've got the classic hits that make your workday.
And you got a job to do.
Go by a lot faster.
Hey, if we haven't said it lately, thanks for listening. The home of classic rock.
Don't touch the dial.
PowerFMRadio.com.au.
Whether you're a professional musician, a weekend warrior, or just starting out, you need to talk to the experts at Royce Music. With over 35 years' experience, Royce Toowoomba's oldest music store specialises in guitars, drums, and sound equipment, and can even repair and maintain your equipment. Call them today on 46 327 377. Drop into their showroom at 17 Bowen Street, or find them on Facebook. Royce Music, selling Toowoomba's finest musical instruments. Welcome back. You're on Switched on IT. We have Doug and Ray with us again today. Doug and Ray, we're talking about building websites and how to build a successful website. I'll turn this back over to you now.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. I think that's interesting with the mobile friendliness and the tips and hints that you've got in there. And I think one of the things just I've observed over the years is how the length or the amount you can scroll down on a website page these days has increased a lot, and I've always understood that that's because on a mobile device you don't want to keep jumping to new pages because it's got to load that page. It interrupts the user experience, and if you can just keep scrolling down, then you're likely to get much stronger engagement from a mobile user. So guess what? As mobile use has increased for website visits, we're seeing that the pages are longer and longer so that people can have that experience. So I think what we'd suggest is to anybody, any business owner that's evaluating their website, absolutely jump on your mobile phone, visit your website, and to your point, Ray, try and see if you can do all the things that you want people to the website on a mobile phone. Can they easily submit a form? Can they easily make a call? Is the information presented in a way achieve the goals that you've set for your website?
Absolutely.
I think one of the other things that we want to touch on there too was the image size with pages as well. So we talked about having, photographs of as much as you can of your organisation, your business, what it looks like from the street. All those things I think add enormous. You want to send a message that you're a local business, real business with a with real people in a real location. But you've got to make sure that those images aren't really big images, that they're optimized for a certain screen size so that they don't consume too much of the bandwidth when someone's visiting your page. Just on the local aspect of it, Ray, other suggestions that you've got for a business that really wants to stamp themselves as a operator and do that through their website? What are the other things that you've seen be successful?
Absolutely. So if you're a local business looking to get your local products and services in front of people, make sure that you are, one, connecting your website to Google My Business, and that's by going to google.com/business and creating a business listing. And there are most businesses that are local businesses can create a Google My Business listing, and it's a fantastic portal for being able to identify the range, right? Your service range or your product range for your customers. The other part is going back actually to what you're talking about, imagery. When you name files, Google looks at the names of files. So it's really important that the names of your pages, the names of your website pages, the names of the images you use on your website are not only keyword rich, but they are localized as well. So if somebody's looking for a business in Sydney, Sydney should be in the name of the image file, right? It'll say, group of friends hanging out together in Sydney, Australia, right? Or in downtown Sydney, .jpeg or .png or whatever the web image format you're using. And likewise for the page titles and the HTML page names that you're rendering. So most CMSs today, content management systems, the software that runs websites, will do some of this for you. But you should really just check those boxes that you're appropriately naming the files, what's actually in the images, and using local words, local people, places, and things to identify the area, the jurisdiction, or region that you're servicing or providing products to. I think people miss that little bit of additional localization that can really be beneficial to angling you to Google and the other search engines. Also remember that images have a specialized tag called alt tags, or the alt text associated with images. And what this does is primarily for those people who are visually impaired, and so it's a visually impaired person's technology to make it accessible to describe the image that they're seeing on a website. So websites for people who are visually impaired have software that read the website to them. So it's an audibly read technology. Well, when it comes across an image, it can read the name of the file of the image, and hopefully the image file is well keyword associated, but you can also tag it with this alt text. And what that does is it gives you a field for you to describe what's in the image. Well, of course, Google uses that alt text field for understanding better whether that image should be shown in its search engine and therefore the page that it lives on. Hands down, you can garner huge amounts of traffic if your business is very photo friendly. That is, you're a photographer, you're in a business that takes a lot of photographs, florists, right? So everything in the wedding industry, where people are going to be taking lots of images. If you have a portfolio of images, graphic designers or any other types of visual artists, your website, making sure that those images are properly keyword optimized, will help drive traffic to your website in ways that you may not realize. So really making sure you have your search engine optimization game, at an A level for Google is really important.
Yeah, very good advice, Ray. Just a question on those alt tags. You're absolutely right. They're indexed by Google, and it's very important that you make sure that you get every ounce of value that you can by choosing your words carefully that go into an alt tag. But a question would be if one was to have a photograph on your homepage or somewhere in your website of your the front of the building that you occupy. If in the alt tag you actually put the street address, 104 Smith Street, Toowoomba, or something like that, does that actually add value in that sense so that it will be sort of read in the correct way by the Google indexing?
Absolutely. Google is not only analyzing the images themselves now. Google is, you can say, looking at the image. It's still identifying the content of the file name as well as the alt tags and as well as captions that may display below an image and the text that surrounds that image. So Google's looking at as many factors as it can to identify the relevance of that image to a person who might be searching for images like that one. And the power of that is, just to kind of explain it further, is that say you type in that 100 Smith Street address into Google, and someone's looking for a picture of it, and up pops your image. Well, right there on the Google image search page is a button that says visit the page. And Google has almost forced the user to have to visit that page in order to be able to really interact and engage with it. So it can really drive traffic to your website, and sometimes very high quality traffic, if you have appropriately set up these alt tags, naming your files, naming your image files, and making sure that they're keyword friendly.
Yeah, very interesting. And I guess we've covered a few things here in terms of the features that people should include on their, on any page on their website. So that the contact information, click to call, click to email, having the address in the alt tag, maybe Google Maps, so that it's very easy for people to find them. That's all good stuff. Ray, with the smaller businesses, we all encounter those on any individual page that we're on, a little pop-up that says, "Hi, do you need any help with understanding our service?" The online chat service. Mm-hmm. What's your sense of the usefulness and the advantages and the disadvantages of using that when you're a relatively small business and you don't have a lot of resources?
Well, I think that live chat is a very powerful sales tool. To be able to give people who show up on your website the opportunity to immediately engage with you in a sales conversation, even if it's just informal, fact gathering. This gives you a sales opportunity. So it's a very powerful tool. The ability to implement these is becoming easier and easier now today. Many platforms have free options. And so you had talked about the WordPress platform earlier, Doug, and there is a WordPress plugin that allows you to implement this kind of live chat tool, and is completely free for people to use. The one that I use actually connects to an application, and that application is installed on my phone and several other of my staff members' phones, so that if someone messages us through that website, it actually shows up just like an instant message or a text message on our phones, and we're able to then respond to those people in real time from our phones from anywhere in the world. And of course, when we're not available, we just turn it off. And when it's turned off, the form turns into just an email contact form. So if we're off, on/off hours, the button there is just an email. People can fill it out and send us a message, and we'll get it. We can respond via email. But when one of us is logged in during business hours, they can always reach someone live, and it's been intensely helpful for guiding people to the appropriate support channel for the different divisions of the company. But also, if they have a question about hiring us, we can have that conversation in real time, and there's no back and forth, and there's not someone who bounces around the website, doesn't find the information, and then leaves. So yes, it does require diligence, right? You've got to pay attention to the messages. You've got to implement the right technology that fits your business. But say you try it out. Try it out and say 1 hour a day, I'm going to have it turned on, right? It's just 1 hour a day where you're monitoring that and you're doing other things while it's on. But if somebody shows up during that time frame, you're there to respond to it. And then you can increase that to 2 hours and then 3 hours. And maybe you have set hours when you turn it on and off, and do it to the level that you can support having live chat, because it's a really great platform to be able to do.
I totally agree, Ray. Certainly our experience and my observation is with live chat that people visiting your site, they are often quite surprised when the live chat pops up and they type in a question. And I see this quite often in our organization, that if the prospective customer gets an intelligent response to the question, which means try not to overuse robots or anything like that, have a real human engaging at the other end. I frequently see a question coming back from the person on the other end asking our guys, is that a real human that I'm talking to? And that person says, yes, this is Ben or this is Dave and I'm in Sydney. and can I ask you a few more questions about your inquiry? And we see that we get quite a high conversion rate from those, because people are generally, if they're engaging with your online chat, they generally have a question that's important to them that they need to ask about. And if they look like they're going to get a sensible response from someone, we see very quickly that online chat turns into a phone call and a discussion with somebody that is really looking to achieve something right then and there, and they convert at a very high rate.
Absolutely, yeah, and the numbers and the statistics that I've seen, hands down, show high effective conversions for people who use live chat. So definitely, if you can support it, it's a pretty powerful tool. And you can have some, the technology out there has some really interesting ways in which it can help navigate, frequently asked questions and those kinds of things, so that even when you're not available, the system can still display information that doesn't seem like a bot, right? It's more, no, this is completely computerized, but here goes some questions you might actually have. Here goes the resources that you can jump to get them, but that if someone is logged in, then you can talk to a person. And I feel like that feels less kind of not bait and switch, but it feels more accurate to just make it a clear cut line that someone's live, or it's a resource repository, search field.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so I think that's our last recommendation would be, to the extent that you can, I love your idea, Ray, just maybe use it for an hour a day when you do have the time and the capability to respond to any inbound inquiries. Give it a shot, give it a crack, and I think a lot of businesses will be surprised at just how effective online chat can be for their business.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have your audience on your website. There's no reason not to interact with them and engage with them and open up a sales discussion. So really appreciated this discussion. Thanks, Doug.
Well, Doug and Ray, I think that this has been a really interesting discussion, and I think that we probably ought to leave it there and come back to this topic again. Is there any final word that you'd like to say, both of you?
I'd just say thanks, Ray. I think that's a terrific summary. There's some great checklists in there for business owners to work through and make sure that even if they've got a fairly basic, as we would say, a brochureware type website, there's a bunch of things that they can do that will help them get the most value from their website.
I would start with, I'll finish here where we started, which is make sure that you think about your website from the perspective that if you don't want to go to your website every day, then why does your target audience, right? So put yourself in your target audience's shoes and think about why they would want to come back to your website over and over and over again. And that's the type of content you want to generate on your website. You're generating that content for someone to want to come back to time and again because it's of high enough value. That's going to bring them closer to you because you're giving them something, and they're going to want to repay you by buying from you, whether that's your product or service down the road.
Terrific.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Now, Doug, your company provides hosting for websites to make sure that they're not just sitting there and not hosted anywhere. Tell us again, what are the contact details if somebody wants to host their site with you?
Yes, if you're interested in using our services, Oz Hosting can be found at ozhosting.com.au, and they can contact us. Use our online chat by all means during business hours. There's always a human behind there that is can give you an intelligent response to your inquiries, and also you can call us on our Sydney number 02-8916-2100.
Terrific. And Ray, you can help people with their social media and a few other things, correct?
Yeah, we're a digital marketing agency, So if people want to find us, they can head over to Twitter and tweet at me at W3 Consulting. Our website address is there on our Twitter profile. Learn more about us there.
Okay. Thank you again for your time. Appreciate your input and your expertise.
Thanks again, Barry.
Well, viewers, that's another show of Switched on IT. I hope that this has been a useful show for you. If there's anything that you want to know about building a website or getting it optimized or anything, contact either Doug or Ray, and of course go to our contact page as well and register on our site. That way you'll stay in touch with everything that's happening. If you haven't done it already, make sure you go to the Google Play Store and download our app so that you can watch us on the app as well. This has been Barry for Switched on IT. We'll see you again next week.